Well, hello there, Basham family.
Guys, welcome back to the Basham Family YouTube channel.
So we don't have our 39-week update appointment.
I wonder why that is.
And we're not in the stinking living room. Ivory!
This is going to be a video talking about... Oh, she's smiling.
Hi, babe.
This is going to be a video talking about the birth of what happened and everything we went through as a couple and everybody around us. So if you like that, hey, you might want to watch this video.
Keep on watching.
Okay, so starting off, I wanted to talk about Ivory. She's right here. She's absolutely so beautiful, so perfect, and we cannot believe that we get to be the ones that are blessed to be her mommy and daddy.
Can you show her?
Yeah. You guys want to see her?
I say hi.
She right there. Oh, look, she just gave y'all the side eye.
Sometimes her makes mean faces, okay?
I wanted to talk a little bit of information about Ivory Amelia. She was born August 25th, 2024 at 5:13 p.m., weighing 6 pounds.
9 ounces.
And how long was she?
20 inches.
20 inches long.
Honestly, we thought she was going to be a bigger baby, but y'all, she literally... Preemie clothes are a little bit too big for her. Like her little legs and stuff still come out and sometimes get into one leg hole because she's so little.
She's little, guys, and she's not preemie, guys. She was 39 weeks on the dot when she was born, so she wasn't preemie, but she's just a little girl. But yeah, let's get into the story. Let's get into what happened, and I'm gonna give it up to you.
I always dreamed of like what it would feel like to have my water break, and I always like prayed throughout my whole pregnancy that like mine would break on its own because I was terrified of like the doctor breaking it. And so Saturday night, which is 1 a.m. Saturday, or is it Sunday?
That's technically Sunday, but we'll call it Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Saturday, yeah. So Saturday night, I went to bed with some cramping. I had been having some cramping, like you guys had known about from my 37-week appointment, but I was like, it's just the normal kind of same cramping. So I was like, you know, maybe it is what it is, right? Like maybe I'll have it tonight, maybe not. So then around 1:40 in the morning, I kind of have this like weird bubble feeling in my stomach, which with being pregnant, you have bubbles in your stomach all the time. And so I had this like weird feeling like I needed to get up to go to the bathroom. So I went up to go to the bathroom, and when I stood up, this weird feeling of like a bubble like in my like coming down, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I walked into the bathroom and I felt like some water dripping down my leg, and I was like, there's no way. So I run to the little bathroom, I run to the bathroom, I sit down, and it just everywhere. Water goes everywhere. And so I start going, Gabe, my water broke. And he was like, what? No. So he runs in there and he's like, oh my gosh, let me go get your mom. So he runs and gets my mom. I stand up, and then it just keeps coming out everywhere, all over the floor, all in the bathroom.
Drew's water breaks. She's calling me. I'm asleep in the bed, right? So I'm like, what? She said, I think my water broke. And I'm like, what? So I go in the bathroom. Sure enough, Drew's standing there, and there's just like clear liquid just hitting the ground.
Everywhere. It's like coming out crazy.
All over the bathroom. So the first thing I do is I'm like, okay, babe, stay right here. I run to go wake up her mom, and I tell Miss Donna, hey, look, Drew's water's broke. And she goes, huh? I said, Drew's water broke. So Miss Donna jumps out the bed like a jack-in-the-box and takes off running into our room. So me and Miss Donna coming back into the room, Drew's just standing there, water's dripping. We get that cleaned up. We get Drew taken care of. And then I start packing the car.
Yes.
And then you and your mom, I don't know what y'all were doing when I was packing the car.
I was getting dressed. I was getting dressed. I was telling the dogs bye. I was kind of walking in circles, freaking out.
But you didn't have any cramps at this point.
No, I just had the same like period cramps. Like I wasn't in pain or anything. I expected it to like instantly like hurt, but like I had like the period cramps that I already had before. So it was just like I was more like nervous, like scared than anything.
So once that happened, we get out to the vehicle. I already packed the car. Drew and Miss Donna get in, and then we start heading off to the hospital. The hospital is about 45 minutes from where we live, the one we were using. And the drive...
The drive felt like forever.
It did. The drive felt like forever, but we finally got to the hospital. We get inside the hospital about probably around 2:20, something like that. And then we go up to the labor and delivery triage.
So next part is we get to triage, because you go to like the part where before you find your labor and delivery room, they had to make sure that my water was actually broken. So they did that test. I had to pee in the cup, and like literally when I was walking to the bathroom at triage,
she was dripping water
everywhere. I was so embarrassed. I was like,
but I felt bad. I didn't want the nurses to have to clean it, so I'm like, come behind Drew with a towel, like
they
cleaning the floor.
They were like, you don't have to clean it.
They're like, we got it. I'm like, I got it.
I think we were just so nervous. We were like scrambling everywhere. But after that, I did that, and then they came in. They're like, okay, your water's definitely broken. They asked me if I was having any contractions, and I want to say we were in there for a while.
We're probably in there for about 40 minutes.
Yeah, I had I had some contractions, but they weren't strong enough. So then the lady walks in, and she's like, okay, the only thing is she's like, your OB that you've been using is not on call, and she's off. And you should have seen me. I was so upset. I was like, are you actually kidding me? But it ends up being an amazing thing.
It ends up working out.
It was such a God thing. So, like, it was a great thing. I say he and she a lot.
He and she, so if you hear us say she for the OB and then he for the OB, it's because Drew's original OB is a she, and the one we ended up having that was on call was a he.
Who delivered delivered Ivory.
The one that delivered Ivory is a man.
Yeah.
But Drew's original OB does come back later in the story to talk to Drew.
Yeah.
So that's when we'll switch back and say she.
Yeah.
So
and they came back in, and after they told me about the OB, they came back in and they asked me if I was comfortable with getting Pitocin. After they came in and told me about the whole OB switch up, they asked me if I was comfortable with getting Pitocin. And at first I wasn't, but the reason why I went ahead and went with it, and I knew that it was the best thing for us to do, is because my water had already broken and it had been like almost 2 hours at this point, and she had not made really any progress. I was a 2, and I think I was at a 3 or something.
Yeah, but you had basically no
contractions at all. And so basically what they said is from that moment on, that increases infection, complications, things like that. So they were like, the best thing to do is to use it. A lot of people don't want to use it, but the best thing is to do it. So I ended up signing the paper saying that it was fine. And then by the time I signed that paper, I'd gotten my IV in, and then we were already on the way up to labor and delivery. And what time was that? It was about like... Honestly, we don't really remember time.
I would look at the clock a whole bunch. I'm not really too sure how long the time frame was in between going to triage to the labor room. It's kind of a blur for me.
Honestly, all of it's a blur.
Guys, most of the thing that this video is probably gonna lack is time frame, because me and Drew were so in the moment. Time flew by like this.
Yeah.
It was just moving.
Yeah.
But once we got to labor and delivery, you got set up. And what's the first thing that happened to you in labor and delivery?
Gabe's gonna do a lot of the talking because I was pretty much out of it from like epidural on. Yeah.
Guys, so we get up into the labor and delivery room. By the way, we get in this room and I'm walking around like, this is a suite. Like, this thing was awesome. It was huge.
So bougie and so nice.
It was bougie. It was huge. The nurse, she was phenomenal. But we get in here, we're getting Drew set up, and I can just tell Drew's got some nerves. She's like in the room. She's about to deliver a baby.
Honestly, the one thing that I did do a lot during my birth was shake. I shake.
You did shake
a lot.
You shook a lot for those days that you were there.
And even in the hospital, and even the other night when I was having some pain, I started shaking. But I heard it was completely normal. And whatever. But go ahead.
But we get her in the room, and basically they get her in the bed, and they're like, okay, well, we need to go ahead and probably start Pitocin to get you contracting. So let's go ahead and do that. But so they start the Pitocin. Mm-hmm. The Pitocin starts flowing. Then Drew starts feeling some real contractions.
I was like, excuse me?
Not to mention, if you guys don't know, Pitocin actually increases the pain and severity of your contractions.
So the nurse had told me, she said, whenever you get these, she's like, you're going to get them faster and stronger. She goes, they are going to be very strong. She's like, so, because you had already told me that you are not really good with pain, she's like, do you want me to go ahead and start for your epidural? And I looked at Gabe and my mom, and I was like, do I want to this early? Like, I was just so nervous about it. And so
me and Miss Donna, knowing that Drew is an absolute tit baby.
Literally, I told every single nurse before walking in, I said, I am a tit baby. I was like, you have to be gentle with me, because I'm literally like, if I stub my toe, I'm out. I'm down for the count.
She's down.
Like, don't talk to me for days because my toe hurts. So I was like, I need to get an epidural as soon as possible. But then I felt like it was too soon because I wasn't feeling anything.
Right.
I always envisioned getting an epidural when I was like screaming in pain.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, like, can I get it right now? And she said yes, because I had to go ahead and get like a bag of fluids.
Yeah.
And the bag of fluids took like 30 minutes. And then she said it could also take the anesthesiologist up to 30 minutes to get to me, or longer, because it was starting to be the next morning. And she said emergencies happen, and there's things that they already have planned out for the day. She was like, so if you want it right now, the
sooner the better.
She goes, if you want it right now would be the time, because there's nothing going on, there's no emergencies right now. She was like, I would highly recommend it. So she went ahead and gave me the IV drip thing for the fluid. It was just regular fluid.
The fluid, they went ahead and put in the orders for the epidural.
And it came so fast. I
thought
I had time to process. No,
it came quick.
They came so quick.
So at this point, Drew's getting Pitocin pumped into her. She's getting the bag pumped into her. So by the time the epidural gets there, Drew has felt a couple real contractions by that point.
Yes.
So are you happy with your decision of asking for it as early as we did?
I am very happy with it.
I was thinking so.
Very happy.
So epidural gets there, and we're like, oh my gosh. We start seeing our nurse set up the table and all the stuff and setting up all these things for the anesthesiologist to come in to give you an epidural.
Yes.
And I know you were more worried about the epidural than birth itself.
But whenever I saw her start setting up the stuff, I actually started to freak out. I feel like, I didn't want to say I had a panic attack, but I was freaking out. And
she had a panic attack, bro.
And then the anesthesiologist came in, and he was like, okay, everyone needs to get out of the room. Well, then I started freaking out even more, and I do think it's the anesthesiologist's preference if the husband can stay or not. And so he ended up seeing how I reacted, and he was like, "Are you the husband?" And Gabe was like, "Yes." He was like, "Okay, you can stay in." And so Gabe got to stay in with me. He got to hold me. He got to be the one that I leaned over with. And so, from my point of view, I want to say before we get really into all this.
And when we talk about this, we want you guys to know that this is me and Drew's personal experience of what we went through, and if this doesn't speak for everybody, so what Drew felt and what I felt in these situations could vary to you guys. If you guys have already given birth, or you know someone that did, or you are about to give birth. Every situation is different. Every person is different. So,
and I don't want to make anybody feel sad or upset or yours went this way or that way.
We don't want to downplay anything you felt, but we don't want to make something seem worse than it is if it's not that bad. But this is what we experienced.
This is on my own personal experience. So I was freaking out. I was bent over on the table, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, hurry up! Are you going to do it?" And he's like, "I'm already almost done." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, I'm about to do something. He's like, "Don't move." And so I didn't move. And then he goes, "All right." And then he put the tape on me. And then he put the little catheter thing over my shoulder. And I was like, "What?"
And I was like, "There you go, baby. Got an epidural."
And then I was like, that was it. So basically, from my personal experience, all that I really felt was almost like a little tiny sting.
Well, you just felt the numbing before.
The numbing, but it felt like a paper cut. It wasn't even a pain. It was a paper cut. It was more my nerves that took over that made me scared, that whenever it happened, I think it was literally nothing. And so he did that, and honestly, an epidural was what out of the whole experience, the epidural was the easiest thing I went through that day.
It was, and
it was the one thing that I was the most scared about.
Guys, imagine that. And it ended up being a cakewalk for her.
Literally.
She didn't feel anything. I don't know if that's just, I don't know, but you didn't feel anything. And we're blessed for that. Okay, so guys, once Drew had gotten her epidural, she's in the bed, ready to go. We went ahead and cranked up her Pitocin. She was then taking a higher unit of Pitocin and contracting really fast. Drew went from about a 3 to a 6 very quickly.
And then to a 10.
Yeah, quickly. So from the 3 to the 6, Ivory's heart rate actually dropped a lot. And so what they did was they went ahead and turned her Pitocin down, and then they decided what they wanted to do is, because Drew's moving, she's hurting, they took off the contracting monitor and the heart rate monitor off her stomach, and they went ahead and placed them on Ivory's head inside the birth canal.
I didn't even know that was a thing until she told me she was
It was pretty cool. But also, on top of this contracting thing, it also had a little tube, because Drew was losing a lot of amniotic fluid.
Oh, I forgot about that.
They would hit a switch and it would pump water into your uterus.
Yes, I remember saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm peeing myself." And they're like, "No, it's the water from
it's pumping it in."
I forgot about that.
And the reason they did that was because I
lost all my amniotic fluid.
Because you didn't have any amniotic fluid, your contractions were stronger.
Oh, wow.
And they hurt more, and they hurt her more. Aww. So that's why they pushed more fluid in there to help both of you.
Baby.
So once they got the monitor on Ivory's head and on the inside of your uterus, things were a lot more accurate. We could track her heart rate better.
I forgot about
We could track the contractions better and everything like that. So once Ivory's heart rate was more stable and we were confident that it was reading correctly, they went ahead and turned the Pitocin back up. And then over the course of a few hours, guys, it was a little bit of time before Drew started really progressing. But eventually, Drew did get to a 10. When Drew got to a 10 on her contractions, she's a freaking baller. She got to a 10. The nurse,
a
10 dilated. The nurse kept saying that she could feel a lip of the cervix still on Ivory's head.
But I was ready to push.
But Drew was like, "I gotta push."
And that is so stinking true. Whenever the dogs are eating bones, by the way,
the dogs are eating bones.
But the feeling of I have to poop is the most accurate feeling in the world. It feels like you're holding in poop, and it's like you have to hold in your poop, but no, it is the baby.
So you be your poop.
You be your poo poo.
So, long story short, once we got to that point, they just you know what? We're gonna have her start pushing. So we started off normal, we were lifting her legs back and we were counting the contractions. Every contraction, at the height of the contraction, we would count to 10 3 separate times. Drew, you were doing an amazing job pushing.
And you and my mom were doing an amazing job helping me. Y'all had my knees all the way past my head.
I had your knees up in your face, girl.
And I will say, that was the most empowering moment of my life. I felt like, wow, I can do this. Your sister's okay.
He's like, oh, Dad, just check.
He's checking on his sister.
Then, this is where things start to get a little weird. Once they realize that little piece of the cervix is there, Drew had been pushing for about 30 to 40 minutes, and Ivory hadn't moved. And she was getting some really strong pushes. A lot of fluids and blood was coming out.
I thought, honestly, when I was pushing, like, I thought she was already out. And y'all would, like, I'd be like, is she here? And y'all were like, no.
No, she wasn't there. And the nurse said she could start to see Ivory's head, but it just wasn't moving.
There was like a lip. Something was stuck on her head.
So they were like, what's going on? So once the OB that was on duty, the guy, once he figured out what was going on, he came in the room. He decided, hey, look, I'm going to check you and see what's going on. He put his gloves on. He checked Drew out, and he was like, okay, that's a little strange. He goes, and he sat there and watched Drew push and watched the monitors, and he saw Ivory's heart dip a couple times.
He never left, like, the outside of my door, like, in my room. Like, he was always...
He stayed around the room for a few hours. He stayed
around.
2
hours that I pushed.
He stayed around and was watching. After about 2 hours of Drew pushing, he comes back in the room after reading the heart monitors. I could tell a look on his face. He was not having it.
Mind you, it didn't feel like 2 hours to me.
Honestly, it didn't to me either.
To me, it felt like I only pushed like twice. So whenever they told me afterwards I pushed for 2 hours, I was like, there's physically no way possible.
Guys,
and it was.
It was crazy. But he comes in, he checks Drew again, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to have you push, and I want to feel inside while you're pushing what's going on. After probably 15 minutes of Drew doing that and him helping Drew, he said, all right, that's it. He goes, we're done. He goes, we're going to push you into an emergency C-section. Her heart rate kept dropping, and he said he wasn't comfortable continuing on because that could risk Ivory's life, and it could potentially risk your life.
Yeah.
He said, so we're done right there. We're going to get you into a C-section, and we're going to get this baby out of you right now.
And, like, whenever he said that, like, it all just, like, came back to me, like, the flash of, like, someone saying that to you was just, like, literally crazy. But in that moment, I knew that she needed to come out, and I was so physically tired that, like, I just wanted what was best for her.
Yeah.
And so, like, usually, like, when you think someone would tell you that, you would think of, like, things to say. Like, I was just like...
You were just silent.
I was just like, okay, like, if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. I think that's what everyone felt. Everyone was just like...
Everybody was like...
I feel like my mom and Gabe had a sigh of relief.
I was relieved.
Me, I was so in the moment, and I was so, when I told y'all, like, so tired. I think that I just was doing whatever y'all said I had to do.
Right, and you know, and that's the thing.
I was really out of it, honestly.
You were out of it. But before even that point, though, let me just mind you, the amount of ways Drew had to push...
I do remember a few different like positions that you're talking about.
Yes.
I remember she did like the rope, so she took a tug of war. She made she took my sheet that I had, and she would pull it, and I would pull and push at the same time. I got on all fours and pushed.
Drew was on all fours.
I was on all fours
pushing.
I did like one knee up on the side. I did one knee up on the side this way. I did knees this way.
Guys, we were flipping Drew over, having her push every type of way possible.
The one that I do remember that hurt. It didn't hurt, but it was like more uncomfortable. Was they would take my knees and push it up against my belly. Oh, I remember that one. I didn't like that one.
But guys, I'm talking Drew pushed any way you can think of, like pushing besides standing up and pushing because of the epidural. Yeah. Any way she could be on the table and push, we did. And there was no progress.
Yeah.
That's what led up to deciding on the C-section from the doctor.
I do want to add though, whenever they did tell me I was getting a C-section, I do remember saying, I feel like I failed. I feel like I couldn't do it. And I feel like I went through all of that. Or I do remember saying like, I went through all of that for nothing. Well, it wasn't for nothing, but in that moment, I was like, wow, like I wanted to do that one thing. I wanted to give birth. I wanted to do like what I was supposed to do, what my body was made to do. And I do remember like feeling like I just failed. Like I was just like,
How long did that feeling last?
It lasted until until like everyone in the room was like, no, you didn't feel like when you all like encouraged me and stuff. It made me feel better, but like I did feel like why did I go through all that to not get like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
You feel like you did everything and it just didn't work out. You feel like you just messed up.
Yeah, and I feel like I messed up. I feel like it was something that I did. I felt like I wasn't pushing hard enough, and I do like during my pushes. I remember asking, "Am I pushing hard enough?" Because like, you really can't feel it. You can feel it, but you can't.
No, you were pushing hard.
And I asked her, I was like, "Am I pushing hard enough? Is it my fault? Like, is your heart dropping because of me? Like, is it because I'm freaking out because I was super anxious?" I was like, "I'll calm down. I promise. I'll calm down if you let me push some more." And they were like, "No, like there's just no way. Like we have to get her out." And so from the moment of them telling me that to going to the OR was like in the same second. I feel like there was there a little bit of a break?
Not really. As soon as they said that, they pretty much got you cleaned up, got a sheet on you so you can go through the hallway, and then they pretty much took you straight to the OR.
I do remember going in the hallway, and all the nurses at the nurses station could see the look on my face, and they were like, "You got this. You can do it. You got this." And
So once they decided Drew was going to have a C-section, they had me get dressed up in like a cap that covers my hair and a whole apron, and insert a picture.
We're going to insert pictures throughout the whole video. So don't worry.
So there's going to be a picture inserted of me in that, and we were told, guys, that for the C-section they would wheel Drew in.
Because I already had epidural, mind you, so it was going to be a quicker process than what it normally would be.
Well, that's what we were told. So they said, you know what, we'll get her set up, and then we'll get you to come in the room, and then we won't cut or do anything until you're there, and then we'll have this baby. Y'all can be there together while she comes out. And so we were like, cool, sounds good. So we go down the hallway. They get Drew right up to where she's about to go to the OR. I sit down in the little waiting area for the operating room, and now it's your turn.
So I don't know why I'm about to start crying.
It's okay.
Because I remember. So they put me in there, and I remember seeing Gabe like go to the corner. I just remembered it all.
It's okay, though.
And the funny part is, I was like, "Ooh, I'm in Grey's Anatomy," and they laughed because that's what it looked like. It was super white in there. It was cold. You could see all the instruments, and I remember them asking me, "Can you get on the table?" And so I remember helping them like push me. I remember using my hands to push me up, and I got onto the other table. They put me on the table, and they say, "Okay, this is about to be." Probably very uncomfortable. They're like, because you already have an epidural, you're not going to be completely numb like you normally would be because we can't do a spinal tap on you because you already have your epidural. So they're like, you're going to endure a lot of pressure, a lot of tugging, a lot of pulling, more than the normal person. It's going to be they said it might feel like pain to you, but it's not going to hurt. It's just going to be very uncomfortable. And they said it could take us 5 minutes or it could take us 45 to an hour. They're like, we don't know what we're getting into because they've never, cut me open before. And so I remember laying on the table and I was like, okay. And then the OB said, I'm about to insert, and what was it called?
Basically just a balloon.
Basically, they had to go in there and push her back up. So she did go down, but because of what happened, I'll let Gabe explain because the doctor explained it to him. She was all the way there, but they had to push her back up. So he said, you're going to feel some pressure. And so I remember feeling like, I heard like the balloon sound, like the sound of blowing up, and I just remember feeling her go like whoop, like back up into me, and it hurt so bad. I remember being in so much pain, and the anesthesiologist was on my shoulder, and she had this like scalpel, which you can kind of see it right here. She was like tapping me with it, and she goes, can you feel that? And I said yes. So then she goes, okay, I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna tap you, tell me when you feel pain. And as soon as she touched like the bottom of my stomach, I was like, I feel pain. I felt every tap that she made, and instantly she goes, that's it. She was like, you have to be put under. And the OB looked at her and he was like, he's like, I'm sorry, we have to put you under. There's no way that you can go through this. And it's just, you're in the way that, they didn't say my anxiety, but I think it was the way that I was so anxious and the way that I was coming off. Right. They could tell there was no way I could go through a surgery like that.
Go through it, sit still while they have your insides open.
Honestly, it was all God thing. There was absolutely no way. So when they told me that, I remember looking up at the lights. They had these huge lights, and he was putting on the caps of to pull the lights down. They were green caps, and I look over at the table, and the lady starts calling out the instruments, and I would tell y'all, I was so tired. Like my body was so tired. I actually fell asleep. I remember dozing off, and I don't think it was like longer than like maybe 2 seconds. I don't know how long it was, maybe a minute. And I remember falling asleep, and then the other anesthesiologist, this guy, he like tapped my shoulder and he said, okay, Drew, you have to wake up. And I woke up and I was like, can I hold your hand? And he was like, no. And he strapped my hand down to the bed. Well, he wasn't rude about it, but he was like, no, I have to strap your hand down. And then my nurse, the one that was with me throughout all my pushing and all of basically the only word I can use to describe the trauma, she said, okay, Drew, we're about to do your call out. And then she said, what's your name? What's your birthday? And then I remember just falling asleep. And then I woke up.
So once Drew's, I'm assuming, out, I'm sitting out in the waiting room. I'm still thinking,
I'm about to go in there.
I'm about to go in there, and they're about to, pull Ivory out. I'm going to talk to Drew while they do it, and it's going to be great. Oh, bless you.
The baby?
She just sneezed. Everybody on the camera,
say bless you.
Bless you, Ivory.
Bless you, Ivory Amelia.
God, she's so freaking beautiful. Anyways, so I'm sitting out there and I'm thinking, man, this is taking a little bit longer than I expected. They said it would take like 5 minutes. So far, it's been like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, that's weird. Finally, the anesthesiologist comes out and she goes, change of plans. And when you hear that in a situation like that, you're like, what?
What?
She's like, change of plans. I'm like, okay, yes, ma'am. She goes, okay, so I don't think she's going to be able to handle what we're about to have to do. So we're putting her under general anesthesia. She's going to go to sleep. We're going to put a tube down her throat. And
which I didn't know they did that to me.
Oh, yeah.
Everything makes sense now, but go ahead.
We're going to put a tube down her throat and everything like that, put her out. And then I said, okay. They said, but here's the thing. You can't be in there when we do any of that. So we're going to go ahead and get baby out. And then you'll come in once baby's already here and while she's still under. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, so you won't be able to be there when she comes out. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, okay, well, you know, that's what's best for Drew and Ivory, then that's what we're going to have to do. So she left. Another probably 20 minutes goes by. And then I just start hear crying. I just hear a baby crying. And I remember thinking, in my head, I'm thinking, oh, this is, you know, we're in labor and delivery. Like, there's babies crying all over the place. But then it hit me. We were the only ones in that area. So it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute. That's my baby crying. So I left where I was sitting. I ran up to the doors where Drew was getting operated on. And I just hear, you know, her just wailing, crying.
You want me to put the clip in?
Yeah, and Drew will insert a clip of what I recorded when I walked up to the door.
And that's something that just hit me like a few days ago, or you know, it feels like it's all been a blur, but it was like I didn't get to hear her cry. I didn't get to see her when she came out, and I didn't even get to hold her till like 2 days later.
Yeah. But now you get to hold her all the time.
Now I get to hold her all the time, but go ahead.
But anyways, guys, so I'm hearing crying, and I start crying because I'm like, that's my baby in there, and it was just a different feeling because I feel like you always envision it going a certain way, like they pushing her out and put her on their chest, and we're just all there, or surrounded by your family and all this stuff. But it was just very cold and very lonely. I was by myself. Drew was by herself, basically.
I can't
passed out.
Let you be by yourself.
I was by myself. Ivory pretty much came out not around her mom and dad. Her mom's out. I'm out, not in my room. So it was just a very, you know, it was
the only words that I can use to describe that day was it was the most beautiful, traumatic day of my life.
That day was very traumatic. The way seeing you push, seeing you having to get on all fours in all the different positions in excruciating pain, pushing, blood coming out, the crazy stuff. I mean, it was brutal. It was very brutal. Seeing the person you love so much endure that longevity of just pushing and just pain. It's a lot, and I know you were going through it, so I know you know what I'm talking about. But I guess being someone that's not doing it, but watching someone you love do it, and you feel like you can't do anything about it to help you, it's terrible. But the story gets better. I end up being able to go in the room. I see little Miss Ivory laying on a little heating table thing, and they're getting her weight and all that. They did that while I was in there.
She had white stuff on her?
When I got in there, no. She still had a little bit on her, but she was get purple though.
Aww.
And so she was getting, they were wiping her down and getting her cleaned up. But they did leave a long piece of the umbilical cord on her, so I could feel like I trimmed it.
I wish the nurse would have grabbed my phone and taken a picture of me doing it. It's okay though.
But so I trimmed the umbilical cord down. It didn't feel at all what I thought it was, like a thick rubber band.
And I wanted to see my placenta. I didn't get to see it.
I was in there, but when I saw Ivory, I turned to my right, and all I see is my beautiful wife, wide open, intestines everywhere, and I'm thinking, what the frick? This looked like.
Dude, you weren't expecting that.
No, it looked like an episode of Saw. Like I was like a horror movie. I was like, oh my gosh, like what is going on? And all the doctors are just like, oh no, just look over there. And I'm like, okay, I just will not pretend like I just didn't see that.
Yeah.
And
was it hard for you to see?
It was hard for me to see, and I didn't know how to feel as far as like her, because I was worried about her, and then I was worried about you.
It was like a weird. It was like a new feeling for you because you never had the both of us. So it was like kind of like one of those feelings of like, who do I
felt
which
pulled.
one? Yeah.
I felt pulled between. Am I supposed to be here consoling Ivory crying? Am I supposed to walk over there and make sure Drew's okay? But I felt pulled. I felt, am I supposed to go with you and make sure you're okay? Am I supposed to go with Ivory and make sure she's okay? And I just didn't know how to feel.
Okay either.
I just didn't know how to feel. So I asked the nurse while they're starting to sew you up, and I asked the nurse, I'm like, she's okay, and she put Ivory in the bassinet to wheel her off, and she's like, alrighty, well we got Ivory, we're going to bring her back to the labor and delivery room. And I said, do I stay with her or do I go with you and Ivory? She goes, oh no, come with your baby. And I was like, okay, well it made it a little bit easier to make a decision. They're like, come with her. I'm like, okay.
Did you feel bad?
I felt terrible. I felt like I needed to go with her, but I also felt like I needed to stay with you.
I'm glad you went with her.
And so because I knew you were about to wake up, and I didn't want you to wake up in pain like me not around.
Yeah.
So it was really hard.
Yeah.
And So anyway, so I go with Ivory, and the nurse was super nice. This is a different nurse. And she was like, hey, she's like, you want me to take a video? If you give me your phone, I'll take a video of you pushing her in to the labor and delivery room where y'all's family and friends are. And I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So we can also insert that video too. But I went into the delivery room. I pushed Ivory in, and I got to see everybody just goo and gaw all over. That's kind of where I left Drew. And go ahead.
So then, I guess from my point of view, from that part was I woke up and I just remember screaming. I remember being in the absolute most pain I've ever felt in
as soon as you woke up?
Entire life. Instantly. Like, whenever my eyes opened, they said, tell me your name. And I was like, I'm hurting. I was like, there's something wrong. I'm on fire. Something's wrong. I need medicine. I was like, there's something happening. Like, please, where's my mom? Where's Gabe? Like, I couldn't see. Like, it was like, when you're coming out of that medicine, you can see, but you can't see. And you can feel, but you can't feel at the same time. And so, for me, I just remember being in the absolute most pain ever, crying, screaming. And then I remember getting pushed into the room, and everyone was in there, and they were all shocked because they were like, they didn't think I was going to be coming back that soon. And
the bad part was they didn't really have her on any medication at all.
So what they had told me was, because of me already having an epidural, is they turned everything off whenever after I guess they were done or when they were doing it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get medicine after the 30 or 40 minutes that was up because they had to make sure that my blood pressure and all that was good. But the pain that I felt was not good.
Yeah, not good at all. So Drew was screaming, hurting. It was bad.
And I didn't even I don't even think I even asked. Did I even know about Ivory? Like,
you did. You only said, "Where's my baby?" That's what you said it one time. I brought Ivory up to you. You kissed her on the cheek, and I said, "Do you think she's beautiful?" And you said, "She's beautiful, but I can't see her," and it broke my heart. And then you asked me, you said, "Do you love her?" I'm like, "I love her."
Stop here.
And you said you love her.
My C-section hurts.
You said, "Do you love her?" I said, "I do love her." I said, "Do you love her?" You go, "I love her. I just can't see her."
And yeah, it was tough because like I could see, but like I couldn't see. Like it was weird,
Yeah.
And it was like that until the next day.
Was when we had talked to when the OB came up to me in the operating room right after Drew's C-section. He told me, yeah, there was no way she was gonna be able to push this baby out. I'm like, really? Like, what? You know what's going on?
What? How would you?
She's like, he said that her pelvis is very, very narrow. She has small hips and a narrow pelvis. He said in the way that
so he thinks I'm skinny,
girl. And he said the way that Ivory was facing, they kept calling it OP. She was facing up with her face up instead of down, and so it made her neck not be able to bend to go down the birth canal. And if you had a wider pelvis, it could have worked. But because your pelvis was so small, they couldn't get it to work, and that's ultimately why they had to give you a C-section.
Yeah, and he said that from now on, future, like I will never be able to
you need to have C-sections.
I have to do C-section. Go into labor and delivery, and we had the best nurses ever. I have to do a whole separate video. Postpartum, yes. I could do a whole separate video on our nurses, like literally life changing. I will never forget every single nurse that I ever had. But basically, from this point on, I was completely out of it because of the medication that I was on, and because of how much medication I don't even know what I was on, but basically it made me very tired.
She was on some high level stuff.
Basically I was very tired, and I literally physically, because of the labor that I endured and then also the C-section, I think I would have bounced back faster if I just had the C-section, but because I went through the 15 hours and all the 2 hours of pushing and all of that, my body was literally just like done. It was like I physically could not even like lift my arm if I tried. Like I was so tired. So I want to experience, not that I want to experience it, but I want to experience a normal C-section. Like, could I have bounced back quicker if I didn't have to go through all that pushing and stuff like that?
Oh, most definitely.
I don't know. But basically from that point on, I don't remember anything. Like, I don't remember Ivory's first night. I don't remember you waking up in the night taking care of her. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those types of things. So this is kind of like where he can take over, because like from this point forward, I'm only just now today, like, completely back to myself, I feel like.
You know? I know what you mean. So
he got a haircut today. His hair's everywhere.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, so basically from this point on, Drew is out of it. She's on medication. She's in so much pain, and it just was what it was. So the first night we were there, after having Ivory, I was like, okay, well, I've got to do this because there's no way she's doing this.
You basically was taking care of two diapers, my diapers and her diapers.
Literally, I was.
You still are.
I still am for the most part, but I was basically changing Drew's diapers. She was bleeding.
I'm crying. I'm screaming.
It was bad. When I say Drew's diapers, she wasn't like defecating on herself, but
no,
she just. I was having to change her bloody
everything,
everything,
like incision stuff, all
it was
that kind
bad.
of stuff.
So I was in between changing her stuff. Every 2 hours, I was feeding Ivory, and then I was giving you
medicine.
No, the nurses were giving you medicine.
Yeah, but you were still had to wake up.
But
when
I
the nurse came
had
in.
to wake up when the nurse came in when they gave you medicine. I was changing your bloody stuff. I was going to get nurses when you needed them, bringing you anything you needed, everything you needed.
Apple juice for the
Apple juice, anything.
My favorite.
I had you taken care of. So guys, I didn't sleep but a total of 3 hours the entire time I was in the hospital with Drew.
I think today you slept the longest.
Yeah, today's the longest I slept.
Yeah.
But it was brutal. It was crazy because it went from, normally you're taking care of your baby, but because of what Drew went through, I was taking care of her and the baby. I've never taken care of Drew that way. I've never taken care of an infant.
Seeing you switch from Gabe to full on dad mode, he was figuring out things. I feel like you figured out things about being a dad quicker. You just jumped in.
I had to.
You had no choice. You just jumped in and you just knew. You knew her cues. You knew. It's just it's been so amazing. I'm not trying to cut you off, but it's just been so amazing to watch you do that and see how you literally just instinct. He literally just jumped in and it was he flipped a switch and it was okay, I'm a dad. Dad mode on. You took care of everything. And the other thing that would break my heart is when the nurses would walk in and they'd say, "Okay, mama, what's baby girl's feeding schedule?" And I remember just laying there again, I am such a failure. I don't know. So I'd look at you and you'd be she did this, she had this many bowel movements, she had this many wet diapers, here's her chart. You had her little chart and you were writing down all her stuff on it. And I just remember looking at you and thinking oh my gosh, you're so amazing and you're just being the best daddy ever. But
I love you.
I love you. And that was another part where I really felt wow, I'm such a failure because I couldn't do it. But
you couldn't.
I couldn't.
You physically could not do it.
I couldn't. But I was so thankful that I had you to be able to do it, and she had you to take care of it, or you and my mom.
Yeah, and that's what you do when you're married. You do what you gotta do.
Well, married and a dad.
Married and a dad. So it is what it is. And then all the way up, even when we got home, so we ended it. Well, anyways, that was the first night, and then the next morning, Ivory had to get a blood test. So they ran her blood test. They came back and they were like, "Hey, her bilirubin number is a little high." If you guys don't know what that is, it has to do with jaundice. They're like, her bilirubin number is a little high. It's kind of on the fence, but we're gonna let her go through tonight. Tomorrow morning, we'll test it again at 6 a.m. and we'll see what happens. We were supposed to be going home the next day. They said at 6 a.m. we're going to come in, we're going to test it again and see if it changes. And we were like, okay, cool, let's do that.
But we were we're going home tomorrow.
Yeah, we were like, cool, we're going home, we're ready to go home, blah, blah, blah. Well, next morning rolls around. They test Ivory's blood. It comes back within an hour and a half. So about 7:30 in the morning. Yeah, they didn't even give us the results. I knew the results by the way they walked in the room.
They walked in the room with all this equipment.
All this equipment, all these lights and all this stuff. And I looked at Drew and I was like, it must not have done good.
And by this point, I was feeling a little bit better. So I actually woke up that morning. I took a shower. I was getting dressed. I was so pumped up. I was I get to feed my baby. I get to hold my baby. This is my turn. I get to do it. And the nurse walks in with this bed and all this stuff. And she's like, unfortunately, we're going to have to do the light
She's like, we're going to have to do some light therapy. They said, okay, by the time they put her on it, it was about 7:30 in the morning. They said, we're going to leave this until 6 p.m. tonight. They said by 6 p.m. tonight, we're going to test it again. And if it changes, if it's good by then,
you can go home that night.
You guys can go home. And I was like, okay, sweet. And I asked the nurse, is that even possible?
She's like, yeah.
She's like, yeah, it happens all the time. You would be amazed what a few hours of this therapy can do. Mm-hmm. Y'all pretty much. She's like, I'm pretty sure, not 100% sure. She goes, I'm 50-50. You can either go home today or if it don't work, tomorrow.
And the only problem is that she'd have to stay on it. And then, only get, for her, every feeding, she would only come out of it for 30 minutes. 30 minutes only.
And they had this little thing that goes over her eyes to cover her eyes. She hated it. She hated it.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I hated it too, but I just remember feeling again, oh my gosh, I finally I got the courage to take a shower. I was up and moving
and they ripped it away from you.
And then they just took it away from me. I was like, again, I'm a failure. I should have pushed harder the day before. I should have done something the day before so that I could be able to do it. And then, seeing her sitting in that light, just, crying, literally cannot take her out. You have to leave her in there. But I was thankful that we were able to have her in the room. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
But then she did her light therapy all day.
Hit about 6 o'clock, they come to check her blood again. Guys, I hate when they check her blood because they prick her foot and they're squeezing her little foot. But they checked her blood again, and they come back and they're like, guys, she missed it by 2 points.
2 points.
They're like, so we're going to have you guys stay the night again. And me and Drew started crying. And I'm sitting there oh, jeez. they're like, we're going to have y'all stay the night again. And basically, after they took her blood test in the morning, she was in the light from that morning all the way to her next blood test. And then after they took the blood test, we put her back in the light all the way up until we got the results. And then when we got the results and figured out she had to stay, she was in the light from then overnight all the way till the next morning.
Yeah.
Now, the next morning is where it gets good because they're like in the morning around, what time did they say?
The first round, so like the 6 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, like 6:30, 7 o'clock, we'll come in, we'll check her, and hopefully she can go home. And I was like, okay, cool. So all over again, the whole night.
The lights.
And I had to wake up every 5 seconds, literally, every 10 minutes, and make sure these little goggles were staying on her eyes.
They would come over her nose.
They'd go over her nose, and we adjusted them. The nurses adjusted them. We adjusted them. It wasn't something we did wrong. Like, the nurses literally kept saying... They literally said we had the best glasses, and they switched to these little foam things.
They even said they went to the NICU to try to see if they can get the good ones, and the NICU...
And they said they didn't have them. So she had these sucky little things, and they made me mad.
Gabe hates this. If you actually kept them as a souvenir to show, just to have one day, to be like, these little...
We should grab them and show them.
We should.
Where are they at?
I'll get them in a second.
I hate them. But anyways, but they did protect her eyes, so that's fun. Anyway, so they kept sliding up, and down. And the UV would hurt her eyes, or it would cover her nose if it fell down too far. So I woke up literally every 10 minutes and checked them. Finally, a sigh of relief. They get there in the morning, and I'm over it, dude. Me and Drew, we're over it. So she got her blood checked. Long story short, the jaundice was at bay. It had dropped significantly. Her bilirubin test was great. So it went from getting her blood checked about 6 to 7, I can't remember. And then the results came back, and then they ended up saying you don't have to put her back on the lights. Thank the Lord, because we were then finally able to hold her. That's the first time you held her.
I had to feed
officially.
her.
You held her once, kind of.
Okay, but it wasn't like I was all there. I finally was on a normal medication where I did not feel so drawn.
They took her off the high-end narcotics.
Yeah, basically, and I was able to hold her, feed her, and just be with her.
So
and study her.
Guys, that's how brutal it was. Drew really wasn't able to be a mom up until day 3.
And that literally is like, I can't explain. And I don't even want to talk about it. I can't talk about it.
We're not going to talk about it. So Drew did a great job. She fed Ivory. You were so happy. You were holding your baby. Drew did not want to put her down. She was
I literally was so excited. I got dressed. I got her dressed.
Drew's doing everything, walking around with Ivory like, look at my baby.
I was like, we finally got to get dressed and meet each other. And it was...
Got on a little cute outfit.
It was fun.
But and then we ended up getting discharged and came home. And
it's been really good.
It's been awesome. She had her first pediatrician appointment yesterday.
I will say she is still a little yellow, and I noticed it a lot in her eyes.
But they said that's normal.
Yeah, that's normal, and they weren't really concerned that the pediatrician. We are going back to the doctor next week to make sure.
Going back again.
But I know a lot of y'all have noticed that, so we are she's good.
Yeah, she's good. She's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and her poop, TMI, her poop went from that black tar to a yellow mustard. We're feeding her a little bit more frequently, and it's getting all that extra bilirubin crap out. Yeah. And with all that to say, this whole birth story is not everything's perfect. Not everything goes to plan. I know on social media especially, everybody puts on a persona that everything's perfect, everything goes to plan. Guys, it does not go to plan.
And honestly, when I was going through labor and things like that, and I know that some women can go through the most perfect labor, and I even planned to put on makeup, curl my hair, put on these cute pajamas.
That was her plan. I told her that wasn't going to happen.
And I literally, in those moments, I was like, how in the heck do people do that? And I know that everyone's story is different. Everyone has a completely different experience. And so, I like that everyone gets their own experience. Birth is not going to be the same for you, for me, for nobody. But with us being on social media, people always think everything is perfect. And so I really wanted to tell you guys the story and share it with you guys.
Yeah, we wanted to show you guys a very
real and raw version of a birth.
Of life.
Of life. Ivory.
We try to be as real as possible here, because we only really get to choose social media in general. We choose
the highlight.
We choose what you guys see.
Yeah.
So obviously we're not going to put all the dirty laundry on the internet. We're going to put the things that look the best.
Stuff, yeah.
But we did, and me and Drew both agreed to sit down and make this video and really go in depth and talk about it because of
I feel like everyone always just shows the highlight reels of life when you're an influencer. I don't like calling myself an influencer or a content creator, but whenever you put your life out there, I feel like for the majority of the time, it's always glamour, it's always beautiful, it's always the good things.
It's not always like that.
And I wanted to share the story with you guys because I know a lot of moms that do follow me had these same experiences as me, or had, you know, even harder experience, or, you know, everyone's experience is different, but I feel like for the majority, a lot of people do have an experience like me, and you don't see that on the internet. You don't see people being honest about those things. And so I want people to be able to relate with that and be able to talk about it and see that, you know, it's not just you, like me not getting to hold my baby for days and feeling like a failure, or feeling like my baby didn't know me, or I didn't know my baby. Like, those are real things that happen to people, and you really don't see that a lot on the internet.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to, you know, tell you guys and let you guys know, like, we experience, you know, hard things as well, even though we post on the internet.
Right. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much the gist of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed our story.
Our crazy story.
Or maybe you guys learned something from it.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But anyways, guys, we do want you to comment down below. Do you have a baby? Is it as cute as mine?
No. Okay, actually, I do want you guys, if you feel comfortable, comment down below a little summary of, like, your birth and, like, what you went through, if you want to. Because I love hearing those things. Or, like, if you experienced something like me, or if your birth was, like, absolutely perfect and beautiful, like,
put it down below.
All the things, put it down below, because I love hearing all of them, and it's really cool to see, like, what we all go through as women. So, if you want to do that, comment down below. And also, comment down below, who do you think Ivory looks like?
Obviously, she looks like Drew.
She looks like me.
If y'all say anything else besides Drew, you know you telling a lie. You know you fibbing. Guys, we absolutely love every single one of y'all. Thank you so much for the unconditional love and support. You guys are awesome. We can't wait to just share more of our life, share more of everything we have going on with you guys.
So from now, we're the Basham family, but here's to parenthood journey. We're about to bring you guys along the journey of being a parent. So,
Lord.
Let's go.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.